A billionaire came home one evening, but what he saw made his heart stop. Right there in the middle of his mansion stood his 8-year-old daughter dressed in a maid's uniform, holding a mop, her tiny hands shaking. The child of a billionaire treated like a servant. He froze, not because he couldn't believe his eyes, but because the woman he trusted most was standing right behind her, smiling. What happened next broke the internet. Hello, welcome and welcome back. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. The mansion stood quiet that morning, too quiet for a home that once danced with laughter. Sunlight spilled across the wide marble floor, bouncing off the golden chandelier and brushing the grand piano in the corner. The air smelled faintly of lilies, the scent her late mother used to love. 8-year-old Tina Raymond tiptoed down the hallway. A small teddy bear hugged tightly in her arms. Her tiny feet made soft sounds against the cold marble as she looked around, searching for a voice that would not answer anymore. Her mother's. She stopped at the family portrait that hung above the staircase. In it, her father's arm was around her mother's shoulders, both smiling wide, while Tina, much younger, was on her mother's lap. Her small hand brushed the glass frame gently. "Good morning, Mommy," she whispered. Her voice trembled slightly. It had been 4 years since the accident that took her mother away. 4 years since the house stopped smelling like pancakes on Saturday mornings. And though her father, Mr. Raymond, tried to fill that space with toys, gifts, and hugs, nothing had truly healed the emptiness in her little heart. Downstairs, the sound of clinking heels echoed sharply. Clara, Mr. Raymond's new wife, tall, elegant, and always wearing perfume that made Tina sneeze, was already up. "Good morning, Ma," Tina said softly as she reached the dining area. Clara turned slowly, her lips curling into a faint smile that never reached her eyes. "You're awake early," she said, her voice smooth but edged with irritation. "Why are you wearing that dress?" Tina blinked and looked down at her white silk gown, the one her father had picked for her. "Daddy said I should wear it for breakfast." Clara's smile faltered. "Your father said?" "Yes, Ma," he said. "It's pretty on me." Something flashed in Clara's eyes, not warmth but jealousy. She sipped from her coffee cup and set it down with a quiet clink. "Do you know how much that dress costs, Tina?" Tina shook her head timidly. "More than your school fees for a term." Clara folded her arms. "You're a child. You shouldn't be wearing silk. You should be learning how to behave." "But Daddy," Clara's voice sharpened. "Your daddy isn't here right now." She stood, walking around the table, her heels clicking hard against the tiles. "He left me in charge, and that means you do as I say." Tina swallowed, her eyes growing glossy. Clara reached into a nearby drawer and pulled out a folded cloth, a faded gray maid's uniform. She threw it at the girl's feet. "From now on, you'll wear this during the day. The maids are short-staffed, and you're old enough to help." Tina froze, staring at the uniform on the floor. But I'm not a maid." Clara's lips curved. "Oh, aren't you? You live here, don't you? You eat food that others cook, sleep in a bed others clean. That's what maids do. Imagine an 8-year-old billionaire's daughter forced to mop floors while her stepmom watches. What would you do if this was your child?" Tina bent slowly, picking up the uniform with trembling fingers. The fabric smelled like detergent and old wood. Her eyes stung, but she tried not to cry. "Go on," Clara said, her tone impatient. "Put it on and hurry before breakfast gets cold." Tina turned and walked upstairs, her steps heavier with each one. Inside her room, she closed the door quietly and sat on the bed, staring at her teddy bear. "I don't want to wear it," she whispered. "I want Mommy." The bear didn't answer. Moments later, she stood before the mirror, dressed in the oversized uniform. The sleeves were too long, the waist hung loose, and the collar itched her neck. She brushed a tear away and forced a weak smile at her reflection. "Daddy will come home soon," she whispered. "He'll fix it. He always fixes everything." But deep inside, a small part of her knew some things even Daddy couldn't fix right away. When she walked back downstairs, Clara's lips twisted slightly. "Better," she said. "Now help Mary in the kitchen and don't spill anything." "Yes, Ma." Tina nodded, walking quietly into the kitchen where the housemaid was already frying plantains. The older woman looked at Tina in shock. My baby, why are you dressed like that?" Tina forced a smile. "Madam said I should help you." Mary frowned, lowering the pan. "This woman will see trouble one day," she muttered under her breath. Then she crouched down to Tina's level. "Don't cry. Just stay close to me. I won't let her touch you." Tina nodded gratefully, wiping her nose. Throughout the morning, she helped carry plates, clean tables, and poured juice, tasks too heavy for her little hands. But each time Clara walked by, Tina straightened quickly, forcing herself to smile. By noon, the little girl was exhausted. Her tiny feet ached, and her fingers were red from washing dishes. She sat outside by the garden trying to rest when Clara's voice cut through the quiet. Tina. Tina jumped up. Yes, Ma. You left water on the floor in the kitchen. Clean it up. I'm sorry, Ma. I'll do it right now. Do it fast, Clara snapped. If you break another glass, you'll skip lunch. Tina ran off, her little slippers slapping against the marble. As she wiped the wet floor, she looked up at the family portrait again, her father's smiling face staring back at her. I miss you, Daddy, she whispered. That night she sat at the window watching the driveway. Her father had promised to call, but his phone line was busy. She waited, clutching her teddy bear until her eyelids grew heavy. Her small voice faded into the night. Maybe tomorrow he'll come home. But downstairs, Clara was already on the phone, her laughter filling the house. Yes, darling. Everything's fine here. She's behaving now. Oh, Raymond. He won't be back until next week. The house is mine till then. As she spoke, Tina's silhouette stayed framed against the soft moonlight. A small child in a maid's uniform, asleep on the edge of her bed, still waiting for the father who had no idea what was happening under his roof. The mansion was buzzing with activity that Saturday evening. The maids polished the silver trays. The chef barked quick orders from the kitchen, and the scent of roasted chicken filled the air. But amid the clatter and shine, one small figure moved quietly. Tina. She wore the same faded maid's uniform from the day before. The sleeves had been rolled up this time, but the fabric still hung loose around her tiny frame. Her braids had begun to loosen, and faint shadows of fatigue darkened her once bright eyes. The head maid Mary watched her with pity as she carried a tray of wine glasses. Careful, my baby, she whispered. Madam says you'll serve tonight, but don't let her catch you trembling. Tina nodded silently, clutching the tray like a lifeline. In the grand sitting room, Clara was arranging flowers in a tall golden vase. She wore a tight red gown that shimmered under the chandelier, her perfume filling the air before she even spoke. Her friends were arriving, rich, loud, and eager to gossip about the latest scandals among the city's elite. Ladies, Clara's laughter rang out as the first car pulled in. You're right on time. Tonight is for fine wine and good company. One of her guests, a heavily jeweled woman named Madame. Lois chuckled as she entered. Ah, Clara, you look radiant. Marriage is treating you well. Clara's smile widened. Of course it is. Raymond spoils me more than I ever imagined. Where is he? Another asked. I thought he'd be here. Clara waved a hand dismissively. Business trip. He won't be back for another week. I run the house while he's away. The women exchanged knowing smiles. Power was a language they all understood. Come sit, Clara said, gesturing toward the dining table. I have something special tonight. Aged wine and a little surprise. That surprise was standing quietly by the kitchen door, waiting for Clara's signal. Tina, Clara called sharply. Bring the wine. Tina stepped forward, her tiny hands trembling as she carried the silver tray into the dining room. The guests turned their heads as she approached. A hush fell over the table. One woman leaned forward, whispering to another. Is that the daughter? Yes, the other murmured, her brows raised. Why is she dressed like a maid? Clara smiled thinly, pretending not to hear. Careful, Tina, she said aloud. Don't spill on my guests. That dress you're wearing wouldn't survive another stain. Laughter rippled around the table. Tina's cheeks burned. Her eyes stung with tears, but she blinked them away and focused on the tray. She placed the glasses one by one, her small hands shaking so hard that one nearly slipped. Steady, Clara barked. You're so clumsy, just like your mother was. The words hit Tina like a slap. Her lip quivered, but she kept her head down. She wanted to run, but the voice inside her whispered, Daddy will come back. Just wait. As the women began to eat, Tina stood by the wall, silent and motionless, watching them laugh and talk. Their necklaces glittered under the light. Their manicured hands waved in the air as they told stories of vacations and shopping. None of them looked her way again except for Madame Louis, who studied the child quietly, something soft flickering behind her sharp gaze. During dessert, Clara leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine. You know, when I married Raymond, this house was a mess. His late wife spoiled that child rotten. I had to bring order. You're doing well, someone said, nodding. Children need discipline. Exactly, Clara said. This one now knows her place. She serves, she listens, and maybe one day she'll be grateful I taught her properly. That was when Tina accidentally dropped a fork. The sound rang loud against the marble floor. Everyone turned. Clara's eyes flashed, "Pick it up." Tina bent quickly to retrieve it, but as she did, the hem of her uniform caught on the edge of the chair and tore. A soft gasp escaped her lips. "You can't even stand properly," Clara hissed, rising to her feet. Before anyone could react, she struck the girl across the face. The slap echoed. The guests froze. Even the laughter from the kitchen stopped. Tina stood still, her cheek red and burning, her small hands clutching the fork. But wait, there's a hidden camera watching everything. What happens when the billionaire sees the truth? "Clean it up," Clara said coldly and stopped crying. "No one likes a weak child." Madame Louise stood slowly. "Clara," she began carefully. "She's just a little girl." But Clara waved her off. "Please, Lois, you wouldn't understand. She needs to learn her place." Tina knelt and wiped the floor with a napkin, trying to swallow the lump in her throat. Her tears splashed silently onto the marble, but she dared not make a sound. When she finished, she stepped back and bowed slightly. "I'm sorry, Ma." Clara didn't answer. She turned to her friends again, pretending nothing had happened. The laughter resumed, though it sounded forced now, awkward. Later, as the night stretched on, Tina slipped out to the garden. The moonlight washed over her small frame as she sat beside the stone fountain. The sound of trickling water hid her quiet sobs. Her cheek still stung where Clara had hit her. She dipped her hand into the fountain and touched the cool water to her face. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please come home. I'm trying to be good, please." Her teddy bear wasn't there to listen this time, just the wind. Inside the mansion, Clara poured another glass of wine, laughing loudly to mask the growing unease among her guests. But upstairs in the dim corridor leading to the master bedroom, a faint red light blinked quietly, the small recording light of a hidden security camera. Every word, every slap, every tear, it had all been captured. Clara didn't know it yet, but the walls had seen everything. And soon someone else would too. The next morning broke quietly over the mansion, sunlight cutting across the velvet curtains like golden blades. The house was still, except for the faint sound of dishes clattering in the kitchen. Tina was up early again, her small hands already red from washing. The uniform she wore was damp from water splashes. The color faded even more than before. Her reflection in the stainless steel pot looked tired, a little girl who had learned to smile through tears. "Mary," the headmaid watched from a distance, her heart heavy. "My child," she murmured. "If your papa knew this woman no go sleep for this house." But Tina only shook her head. "Please don't tell her, she'll shout." Mary sighed deeply. "You too gentle. But one day, God fight for you." Down the hallway, Clara's voice rose sharply. "Tina, where's my breakfast?" Tina flinched and hurried to the dining area with a tray of eggs and toast. She placed it on the table, her little hands trembling. Clara didn't look up. She was busy scrolling through her phone, smiling to herself. "I'm going out later," she said. "Make sure the house is spotless before I return. And don't touch the TV again. You don't deserve to watch anything in this house." "Yes, Ma," Tina whispered. But before Clara could say more, the sound of a car engine roared outside. The tone of the tires against the driveway made Clara freeze. Slowly her head lifted. "No," she muttered. "He wasn't supposed to be back till next week." Mary's eyes widened. "Madame Ogadon, come home." Clara's phone nearly slipped from her hand. Her smile vanished, replaced by panic. "Why didn't anyone call me?" The front door opened and Mr. Raymond stepped in, tall, calm, his tailored suit crisp from travel. He dropped his suitcase by the door and looked around the house. "Tina," he called. The little girl froze where she stood. She turned slowly, and the moment her eyes met his, her voice broke. "Daddy." She ran, her tiny feet pattering across the marble, crashing into his arms with a force that made his briefcase tumble. He held her tightly, his hand instinctively running through her braids. "My princess," he whispered. "Why are you shaking? What's wrong?" That was when he noticed the uniform. His expression shifted instantly from warmth to confusion, then to anger. "Why are you dressed like this? Who made you wear this?" Clara stepped forward, forcing a smile. "Raymond, you're home early." "Oh, it's nothing serious. She was just helping around." "Helping." His voice deepened, echoing through the marble hall. "You made my daughter a maid in her own home." Clara blinked, feigning innocence. No, of course not. You're misunderstanding, darling. I was teaching her discipline." "Discipline?" He cut in sharply by slapping her face, by making her serve guests like a servant. Her face drained of color. "Raymond, who told you that?" He stepped past her and pointed at the far corner of the ceiling, a small black camera with a blinking red light. "She didn't need to tell me anything." Clara turned slowly, her lips parting as realization hit. You had cameras installed." "Yes," he said coldly. "For security, to protect my family, to protect her." His phone was already in his hand. With one tap, the footage began to play on the wide TV screen in the living room. Clara's laughter from the dinner party filled the room, loud and cruel, the sound of her voice saying, "She's just my husband's daughter." The video showed the slap, the mockery, the little girl cleaning wine off the floor as guests watched. The air went still. Tina covered her face with her hands, trembling. Mary gasped softly, whispering a prayer under her breath. When the footage ended, silence hung heavy, the kind that breaks hearts before words do. Mr. Raymond turned toward Clara slowly. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. "I trusted you. I gave you everything. And this is how you repay me, by humiliating my child." "Raymond, please," she began, her voice cracking. He raised his hand slightly. Don't call my name like you love me. If you ever loved this family, you would have protected her." She took a step forward, tears spilling down her cheeks. I made mistakes, but I did it for her own good." "For her good," his voice thundered. "You broke her spirit. You made an 8-year-old feel like a burden in her own father's house." Tina clung to his leg, crying softly. "Daddy, please don't shout. I don't want anyone to fight." He knelt immediately, his tone softening as he took her face gently in his hands. "You don't have to be scared anymore, my angel. No one will ever touch you again." Then he stood and faced Clara one last time. "Pack your things. You're leaving today. Raymond, please." "I love you," she begged, her voice trembling. "Don't do this to me. You can't throw me out." He shook his head slowly. "Love doesn't hurt children, Clara. Love protects them." She tried to reach for him, but he turned away, lifting his daughter into his arms. The finality in his silence told her everything. As she walked out moments later, dragging her suitcase through the hallway, Clara paused and looked back at the home she'd once ruled, now empty for her. The sound of Tina's laughter faintly echoed from upstairs, and for the first time Clara realized she had lost something that no money could buy: genuine love. Inside the living room, Mr. Raymond sat with Tina on his lap. He gently wiped her tears with his thumb. "I'm sorry, baby," he whispered. "Daddy should have been here." Tina sniffled and looked up at him. "Are you going to leave again?" He smiled faintly. "Not for a while. You and I have too many pancakes to make up for." She giggled softly, her small fingers clutching his shirt. The rain began to fall outside, soft and slow, washing the dust off the driveway. Mary peeked in quietly. "Sir, do you need anything?" "Yes," he said, smiling for the first time in months. "Take that uniform and burn it. My daughter wears silk, not sorrow." Mary nodded, wiping her own eyes. Tina turned her face toward her father, resting her head on his shoulder. "Daddy," she whispered sleepily. "Yes, my princess." "Do you think Mommy can see us?" His voice caught in his throat. "I think she's smiling right now," he said softly. "Because her little girl is safe again." The lights dimmed as the rain grew heavier, tapping gently against the windows. And for the first time since her mother's death, Tina fell asleep in her father's arms. Not scared, not lonely, but surrounded by the kind of love that could never be faked. And downstairs in the quiet hallway, the family portrait gleamed faintly under the chandelier. The mother's smile still frozen in time, but the home finally whole again. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next emotional story that's even more powerful than this one.